Champagne glass. Well, particularly so next year I get that champagne.
Have you got gin in that glass?
From over there.
Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Woodley Town Council being held on the 21st of June 2022. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, with recordings streamed live and stored on the Town Council YouTube channel. By virtue of attending this meeting, you consent to video or image and audio recording for this purpose. If you do not wish your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. Those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so if you hear the fire alarm, please head out to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the local centre at the front of Woodford Park. Prior to meetings of the full council, we hold the town forum, which is an opportunity for members of the public to pose any questions they may have to the council. This is limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. Do any members of the public in attendance have a question they wish to ask? Yes?
I'm sure most of the council is aware that the Garden Remembrance has flats which residents pay for 10 years or they get a renewal subscription for another 10 years. A lot of those flats have been removed in the last few weeks. So many of the residents are complaining that they don't like to see them removed. Now, I suggest maybe the town council has written to those people, and obviously after 10 years, relatives of that are addresses that they were when they had the plaque installed. But people are disgusted, in fact, by what the council are doing in taking these plaques away. Their names of people that helped to build Woodley and that, and we're just sorry for those names. There's plenty of room in the garden for hundreds more plaques, so there's no excuse to take them away for space. As I say, as friends of Woodford Park, we get a lot of people maybe come up to me and ask about why they being taken away.
Kevin?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, David. Spoke briefly just a few moments ago. I will look into that. I wasn't actually aware that that's where it was. We were contacting people to see about renewals, but I'll look into that. Did you come back to you, David?
Thank you. I'd just like to comment on that because I think that's really sad. Because if you are buried in a churchyard with a gravestone, it stays there. I'm not sure ad infinitum is the right word, but certainly for many years. And some of our older residents in Woodley, I can understand their sadness when they see their neighbours' names returned. Does it have to be a monetary issue? Can residents pay £10 for it to be there almost indefinitely because there is a lot of room? And so we look at the history of Woodley in the Garden of Remembrance as well as in the churchyard.
I've never heard this, but I'm not saying it doesn't happen, okay? It would be very helpful for you, David, to pass on the names of all the people who've complained to you to the Deputy Town Clerk so they can actually start a dialogue directly with them. That would be very helpful.
I do ask people to come round, but obviously because the
if you've got the names, because you're talking to them, just pass on them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify, is this something that we're not doing? It's nothing to do with us. So these names are disappearing and we're not aware why. Why it's happening?
No, it's to do with renewals on the plaques. We previously didn't have a mechanism for people renewing them because the council maintains them over a period of time. What we've been doing is contacting families through the records we've got of those plaques to ask if they want to renew to pay for the space, which is what they paid for in the first place. So they pay for a 10-year period.
Rather challenging, isn't it? Very sad. But we should be doing that.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I've got my father's name is up there, and I'm not, don't know whether it's still there or not, so I will go and have a look. But I remember paying at the beginning. I've never paid a renewal. Maybe I should say, but the point is that when I first paid that, it was for the inscription service. That was very clear that that's what you were paid for. Maintenance, if you're going to maintain, you know, all of them, then one or two that haven't renewed or whatever they're supposed to do really doesn't make any difference. I think this is, there's no way there should be a renewal fee. We should be looking after the memory of those people and just take it from there.
Only that I will look into that and talk to the officer. I wasn't aware that happened. So.
Can you provide whatever answer to all councillors, please? And obviously, David.
Yes, of course.
Do we have any more questions from members of the public? Oh, sorry, you're going to talk.
I just wanted to make a further comment about the plaques that have been removed, what's happened to them, and the trust we still have them and we haven't discarded them so that they can be put up again, whether or not any residents can forward. Those people were members of our community, and we should have them there to remember.
I'll include that in the next one.
Are there any other questions from members of the public? No? As there appear to be no more questions from the members of the public, we will commence with the agenda. First item on the agenda is apologies. Matthew, have we received any apologies for absence for tonight?
Yes, we've received apologies from councillors Green, Ramuni, Sartoro and Brindley, and we also have apologies from councillor Al-Sanjari, who will be arriving next.
Thank you. And those will be noted. The next item on the agenda is declaration of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest from councillors regarding any items on tonight's agenda?
I might, due to my family circumstances, I might excuse myself from point 10 if I can. The meeting.
Thank you for declaring your interest. When we get to the agenda item in question, we will take no part in the discussion or any applicable vote in relation to that item, and if appropriate, will be asked to leave the room for any discussion and vote. Item 3 is to receive the amended minutes of the full council meeting held on the 8th of February 2022. The last full council meeting, members resolved that these minutes should be amended to include reference to the adjournment of the meeting that took place on the 8th of February, which was previously omitted from the minutes. The amended minutes were included with this agenda and can be seen on page 12. Are there any questions or comments regarding these?
I'm just talking about item 76 at the moment.
Item 5. Item 3, sorry.
I've got a point on 77.3. That is all. I'll just flag that up. What we do. Yes, on item 77.3, page 6, we're told that we are required that the proposal is seconder. That obviously didn't happen. Is that now to happen to make sure that we have
Yes, sorry.
Are
Yes,
you talking about retrospectively on the decisions or going forward?
Retrospectively.
No, going forwards we will. Retrospectively, there's nothing that affects the decisions that would have been made, but yes, we recognise that it wasn't in keeping with the way it's standing.
assuming we are happy with these, can we please move to a vote on accepting these minutes as a true and correct record? And those in favour, please raise their hands.
It's 14-4.
Can all those against please raise their hands? Can all those who wish to abstain please raise their hands? The minutes have duly been approved as a true and correct record and will sign these after the meeting. Item 4 is to receive the minutes of the annual meeting of the council held on the 10th of May 2022. The minutes were included with this agenda and can be seen on page 50. Are there any questions or comments regarding these? Yes.
I have two questions, and I request you for these questions and request you to record your answer. If violation of any standing order is identified, can it be recorded or not?
Please refer to a specific item in the minutes.
Can you refer to the specific item in the minutes, please?
It's page 22. Agenda number 12, and this is third paragraph. And it's fourth line where it's written, Councillor Baker commented that the discussion was. So I request you that before this, kindly read standing order 3.2 clause A and clause B.
Councillor Nagra, sorry, could you repeat which standing order?
It's standing order 3.2 subsection A and B.
3.2A says no councillor can speak without the chairman inviting them to do so. Councillor, sorry, 3.2B says a councillor wishing to speak, regardless of the reason why, shall raise their hand or using some alternative method previously agreed with the chairman until the chairman acknowledges this, at which time they can lower their hand or stop the alternative.
Yes, I have checked from recording. Councillor Baker just raised his hand. He was not invited and he stopped me from speaking and he started speaking. So according to my point of view, you can double check from recording. It is clear violation of these two standing orders.
Sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Magic, what are you trying to achieve by asking this question and raising these points? In the heat of a moment, heat of a meeting, and in debate and discussion, people sometimes do speak out without. I did it last meeting myself. I jumped in for something. People do speak out, so it's not necessarily. Yes, there is a due process, but does it really matter? And what are you trying to achieve by asking this question now?
During very first meetings,
Excuse me, Councillor Mac, you have to do it through the chair,
Sorry.
as you've just pointed out.
he asked me, that's why sorry.
Councillor Hoskins, yes.
Margaret Crawley, who've fallen right into my trap. Likewise, I just wanted to respond to you there. I still have to put my hand up, and Deputy Mayor still has to call my name. So if we're going to be pedantic, which I think you are being, in these standing orders, following these standing orders, and inverted commas wasting people's time, then you have to follow those rules strictly by yourself as well. And I think this is a big step we need to get over as a whole council and actually debate the matters that really matter to the residents of Woodley. Thank you.
And I was speaking in that meeting, I didn't address Keith Baker. You addressed directly, that's why I stood up, first thing. And second thing is that I was going to say, during very first meetings, we were told, Keith Baker, that this is our Bible, if you remember. So if it's our Bible, then whatever is written in this, we should follow that, whether it's minor or major. And second, when Keith Baker is speaking, in every, Nada is aware of that, she was stopped at the time that you interrupted me, give me due respect. When you are expecting due respect, then give due respect to others as well. That's my point.
My councillor Swaddle.
I understand this section of the agenda is that we all are asked if the minutes are a true record of the meeting. So if a councillor is questioning it's a true record, perhaps that councillor could simply suggest the alternative that they would like recorded in the minutes. So perhaps Councillor Margaret, you know, there's a sentence he wants to replace it with a different sentence, and you could suggest that.
Is there some alteration you want to make to the minutes?
That's what in my questions I have already suggested to Matthew, that decision is his. I have quoted these two standing orders. According to my point of view, these were violated, but you can double check from recording. If you are satisfied with my point of view, you can add. If you are not, then that's fine.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on these? We're happy with this, so we please move on to a vote on accepting these minutes as a true and correct record. And all those in favour, please raise their hand.
It's 14-4.
And all those against, please raise their hand. And all those who wish to abstain, please raise their hand.
Three abstentions.
The minutes have been duly approved and approved, and I will sign it after the meeting. Item 5 is to receive the minutes of committee meetings taking place since our last full council meeting. Can I ask Councillor Wicks, as chairman of the Planning and Community Committee, to present the minutes, please, of the meeting which took place on the 17th of May, as set out on page 29 of the agenda.
If you could all please receive the minutes of the Planning and Community Committee held on the 17th of May 2022, which is on pages 29 to 34 of your agenda. Anybody have any questions?
Do any councillors have any questions for Councillor Wicks regarding these minutes? We're happy with these. Can we please move to a vote on receiving these minutes? And all those in favour, please raise their hands.
That's 14-4.
And all those against, please raise their hands.
None against.
And can all those who wish to abstain, please raise their hands.
3 abstentions.
The minutes have been duly received. Can I please ask Councillor Bragg, as chairman of the Lift Services Committee, to present the minutes of the meeting which took place on the 31st of May 2022, as set out on page 35 of the agenda. Sorry, Councillor.
So, Chair, I have one question I want to ask to Deputy Town Clerk. I know you have already received residents' complaints about playing equipment in Woodford Park. kindly let us know what type of repair. I think I have read the Freedom Council website that repair is already completed. So what type of repair is already completed and what type of complaints you have received?
Sorry, this isn't to do with the minutes, is it?
It's not related.
I'm happy to provide you with a response if it's helpful. There's some issues with tensioning. We retensioned it each day, which is probably due to it being new and it became lots of use. We have also contact with manufacturers.
I am also interested in knowing, because I think it's a new equipment. Was there any safety test before we opened it?
Yes, there was a full ROSPA safety test before it was opened.
And all these complaints, we didn't notice like that this could happen, although there is no serious incident, but I'm just asking.
No. It's just maintenance issues.
Do any councillors have any questions from Councillor Bragg regarding these minutes? You're presenting the minutes, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to present the minutes of the Leisure Services Committee, which was held on the 31st of May. I do notice the agenda is saying Tuesday, the 12th of April, that these are the minutes of the 31st of May. So I'd like to present those minutes to this council. Only one thing to mention really is item 8 on the minutes, the Woodley preschool garden proposal. It was resolved to amend the report, but also to agree in principle to the new preschool enclose the area to the rear of the existing preschool building as set out in the proposal, in use as an additional secure outside space, subject to the agreement of amended terms and ground rent. Any questions?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Point 9, has the council obtained its own union flag?
I would say no. One of the councillors here funded it, and it will be returned to them in due course. When the PR, I'm sorry, I could be saying, when the PR and marketing group eventually meet, one of the number 1 agenda items, which I've been pushing for well over a year, is actually we need a stock of flags to cut, not only to cover, on Mister's Day, for instance, all those, St. George's Day, blah, 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 blah. We need to have those flags. Once that committee meets, we will hopefully agree a budget, and then the officers will get it. But we can't really do that until we have that meeting.
You're just flagging it up, aren't you?
Oh.
Sorry, this councillor.
Part 6 on page 36. It mentions the paddling pool is closed with electrical work. My understanding was that the actual leisure centre could be closed for up to 8 days. Is that the case? Or for a period anyway?
What paragraph there?
But in the second, number 6, second paragraph, query regarding the paddling pool being closed. In the papers that we received for the meeting, it did mention that I think the leisure centre could be closed because of these electrical works. If that is the case, I think the minute should reflect that. It's not just the paddling pool, it's actually the leisure centre. But if it's not the case, then I'm happy with what you've got there. So that's the first point.
The minutes there do go on to say using a different power source, such as a generator. And it then says, however, even if this was possible, the leisure centre would have no power which means people could not use the toilets.
Well, surely if there's no power, we can't use it at all. That's the point I'm making. Well, I don't know, I think that needs to be clarified, because obviously it's a bit more of an issue if the leisure centre is closed than just the paddling pool.
Perhaps we could add in one sentence, because we did discuss that, just saying that it is in the event of that, it is likely the leisure centre themselves would have to close the short.
You want something else?
Yeah, one other has point 7, the youth strategy working party, has that met, and where are we with the youth strategy? Where have we got to?
The first meeting of the youth party met last Wednesday, I think it was. There's only one main item on the agenda. The minutes, I hope, are close to being sent out of the working party.
It's written, there is a report which would go to the next SNR meeting, but
Right, okay. But basically, there was only one letter of intention put forward, and that came from just around the corner. But it was resolved at that meeting that further information was required, and we should carry out what efforts we could to get further intentions in. With school holidays coming up, we wanted it to be done very quickly, and a month was allocated to get further letters of intention, which I trusted that they send to possible parties, and then that party will meet again in the last week of July before all the schools go back to discuss any further letters of intention.
Thank you.
On that point, I thought the meeting was the youth services working party, so I'm a bit confused about the difference between youth services and youth strategies, so maybe could explain that. And on item 8, we read out one of the minutes, I'm not sure what point you're making there, whether I missed that, but it seemed you just read out what's on the paper, so through you, Madam Chair. So maybe you could explain why you read that out, or have I missed something?
I presume the second point there, you're talking about Councillor Heath's comment about the leisure centre being closed.
No.
Can you refresh my memory then?
When you presented the minutes, you said I'm at item 8, and then point 3 is all done, which is what's on the agenda. I have thought we were getting an update. I kind of didn't get that for this
Well, yes, I mean, the preschool proposal came before the legislative committee for consideration. And we agreed that the proposal itself is sound and should proceed with our recommendation, but subject to agreement of amended terms, which will be needed for the increase that we have on that ground, and ground rent, which will probably increase due to the extra space that they are using.
Okay, Madam Chair, I don't think I did miss anything. We just had a repeat of what's in the minutes. We didn't really that. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor.
The other question about the youth services working party. Are they two different beasts, youth strategy and youth services? Or am I got confused?
Well, the youth service party is set out to look at letters initially, to look at letters of intention. As I said, only one letter of intention has come in at that current time. When we meet again, we will look And then we will invite certain people or certain applicants, if there's more than one, to give a presentation as to what they can propose or put forward as part of their scheme. And that will come under the strategy.
Sorry, I'll just,
Sorry, it was Councillor Morley there.
oh, sorry,
Did you want to speak?
Yes, I did, please, Chairman, but it wasn't necessarily on this item. I understand that this meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube. You are the only person in the room that has a microphone. From here, I have no idea what Councillor Bragg is saying. We need to learn to enunciate our words and speak loudly and clearly, because anyone watching it on YouTube, let alone the members of the public there, will be sometimes in the dark about what's being said. We need to do something about microphones in this room if we're to continue to do that, and the way we, each of us, speak and enunciate our words clearly when we're speaking in public.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
I just wanted to raise a couple of point of orders. The first one, if you look at the standing orders, because that's my matter, we're keen that we follow every standing order to the letter, which is exactly right. There are no minutes of any subcommittees. There are only official minutes of standing committees and full council. The you could call them minutes, but the subcommittees that we have result in a report, as Kevin said, which is reported to the parent committee. So that part, just to be clear, there are no minutes of subcommittees. Also, with respect to the Youth Strategy Working Party, I think actually this terminology is a hangover from pre-new standing orders, because there are no such things in the new standing orders as working parties. There are standing committees, there are subcommittees, and there are task and finish working groups. So I think the confusion is between the fact that old terminology has been used here and should have the newer terminology. I hope that helps moving forward.
sorry, yeah, I just wanted to, I suppose briefly following on from that, I just wanted to quickly check, is the Youth Strategy Working Party the same as the Youth Services Working Party, regardless of whether it's a working party subcommittee? I just wanted to be clear, because I thought I had attended that, but then I thought. All right, Mark, thank you very much.
Just for clarification, I believe the terms of reference refers to the Youth Services Working Party. That sits under Strategy and Resources and is to do with the procurement and the tender element of this, as opposed to the Community Youth Partnership, which is.
So, yeah. Done.
Thank you very much. Assuming we are happy with these, can we please move to a vote on receiving these minutes? And all those in favour, please raise their hand.
(16)4.
And all those against, please raise their hand. And all those who wish to abstain, please raise their hand.
2 abstentions.
The minutes have been duly received. Can I please ask Councillor Baker, as chairman, if he can present the minutes of the planning committee, strategy and resources committee, sorry. Took place on the 7th of June 2022, as set out on page 41 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I draw your attention to pages 41 to 52 being the minutes of that meeting, the Strategy and Resources Committee on the 7th of June. If I could request if we can handle this in two phases. First of all, just talking about the minutes. I think the first set of questions were on the minutes, the accuracy of the minutes, and then the second phase to be on questions. I'm introducing this not because I wasn't forced on you, but the standing orders and financial regulations have set up amendments to how minutes are handled. And the core of that is it's a two-stage process. Let's do the accuracy first and then questions afterwards. But that still has to be ratified by the Strategy and Resources Committee. But I always believe that, notwithstanding, I don't want to take the presumption that SLR is going to pass it, but it is, I think, good standing practice for all of us. We all have a tendency to mix accuracy of minutes and questions. If we can separate the two, I think we can get the minutes out quite quickly and then concentrate on children. Having said that, I'm going to sit down and see what happens.
Thank you. Are these minutes? Yes, please.
Thank you. This may not be the appropriate point to raise this, but it was the group that I belong to's intention that I served on this committee. Now, somehow that's got lost in the works. And I don't know how that's happened, but somehow I'd like that corrected, that I am the representative of our group on that committee.
The last meeting, I said that we will be in touch when we've got the place allocated for that. That was it. Yeah. So just say,
Yeah, that hasn't happened as far as I'm aware. So.
no. So
Well, I'm raising it now because I don't know if there's another opportunity in this meeting.
Yeah, so at the full council on the 10th, it was asked to defer that to another meeting, and we haven't had any contact since. I'd have to check the standing orders. I think my understanding is that at the moment in the standing orders, it says to name a group member to stand on a standing committee. That needs to be written to the town clerk 3 days in advance of the full council meeting, so that it could be noted at full council. I believe we've also, in our amendments, when we were discussing the amendments to the standing orders, sought to allow that to happen at parent committees as well, to try and make it happen far more quickly than the standing orders currently arrive. But I believe at the moment it would require just to put in writing to us at least 3 days before council, so we can include it in the agenda to be included.
We're really sticking to the terms of, every dog and every crossed thing.
Well, your colleague suggested that's what we need to do. So we either do it or we don't. So
I don't mind either way, as long as I'm at the next meeting.
If I, Madam Chair, if I can just, this historic process basically is now, if a political party or a grouping has an allocation on any committee, they shouldn't have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks before a full council in order to make those changes. It's a nonsense. So the standing order, one of the 25 odd changes or recommendations was actually precisely that, to get rid of that and allow the parent committee to do those nominations. There is a caveat in there, and I'll say this now, to stop people, I'm on holiday, so we'll just switch that individual out for somebody else. When they come back on holiday, they switch back again. But that's a minor view. So I have all the empathy for you, Councillor Doyle. It's a historic thing that's been there from time immemorial. We're correcting it.
One way or the other, I shall be present.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy David Bouvet. Could we suspend standing orders now so we can actually discuss this and get Councillor Doyle in as the committee representative for their group? Can we do so?
What an excellent idea.
In that case, then I propose that we suspend standing orders for this purpose. Thank you.
We need to suspend that specific.
I will.
I'm looking it up.
I was exactly what I was halfway through doing. Yeah, let me find that exact standing order, and then we can proceed and get on with that. So,
While he's looking, what we need to do is a seconder, and I'll second that, and then we have to vote on it for suspending, and then the nomination.
Right. So
Sorry, yeah.
Next meeting, yeah. Vote on the suspension.
Yes, are we
Well,
voting?
we
on-
need to know what an idea first.
Sorry.
9.5B.
We're voting on the
Yes.
suspension of standing orders.
So 9.5B says groups can only change for any of their councillors who have previously been nominated at a meeting before council. Any such change needs to be submitted to the town clerk at least 3 clear days before that meeting, where they'll be nominated and noted.
So we've got a proposer.
Propose 9.B, thank you.
I will second it for this particular issue only, because we need to get back into. I'm going to vote on it.
So we have a full vote on this, so everybody happy with this?
Everyone, brilliant, thank you. And then we will know.
Can I nominate councillor Doyle to join the Strategy and Resources Committee?
We don't need a seconder for it because we just need to nominate. So that's done.
The full agenda. So, are these minutes correct? That's what we were asking. The correct record of the meeting of Strategy and Resources.
Questions?
Are there any questions? Thank you, councillor Heath.
Thank you. On Thursday, the event of country going to war. What clarification? It says town council take their lead from central government. I think we need to know in advance of any conflict, which hopefully will improve, what would be expected of us. It's no good waiting to, the actual conflict to start and then try and find out. Communications might be difficult. I think we need to know now what would be, we're quite a large parish council, so, we might be, giving out petrol ration cards or whatever it might be. So it would be useful. We might not know that at the moment, but I think whoever we speak to working in the borough, presumably not the government, we need to know what is expected of us when that happens. We can't wait until the actual event and then suddenly be told, oh yeah, you need to do this, this and this.
Can I just mention, as just mentioned in the resolution there, we have invited the emergency planning officer from Wokingham to come and talk to the council here. And part of that will be re-engaging with Wokingham Borough Council about the plan, not just in case of that, but other emergencies.
Yeah, quite good. Yeah. I think this is a genuine concern, and we just can't start from nowhere. It will happen.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, then can we please move to a vote on receiving these minutes? Can all those in favour please raise their hand? Can all those against please raise their hand?
None against.
And can all those who wish to abstain please raise their hands?
3 abstentions.
Minutes have been duly received. I'm going to ask Councillor Wicks as chairman to present the meeting minutes of the planning community committee meeting. Which took place in 2022. 53 of the agenda.
I think also ready to receive the minutes of the planning community. So on Tuesday, the 14th of June, on pages 53 to 59 of your agenda.
Does anyone have any questions for Councillor Wicks? Yes.
On the Sandford Park, Bailey Bridge, I just wanted to be sure that we joined that thinking here, because there was discussion about the potential cycleway in Charville and Twyford. Now, that's not in Woodley, but it would actually benefit people from Woodley. So I just want to make sure that A, we're included in the discussions, and you bear in mind that I don't know if any monies could be spent outside the area of Woodley, but bear in mind that there are things that happen in other parishes who potentially benefit our residents. So that needs to be brought in mind.
Have written to Wokingham with regards to asking for some more information, and I think we've had a response.
Thank you. Any more questions? Sorry. Oh, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you. I just want to, item 27, Community Speed Watch. A couple of issues on this. I was talking to Prue Brown, the FET the other day, in English, and she was telling me that they have a very good relationship with their police liaison officer, where they operate their speed watch, and they say that they manage it so well, and they have to manage it well. They have a very good relationship with the police. And it is worthwhile doing if you have that relationship. The question I have is that if we put this data logger up in various places, what possible value does it have if we can't give the results of that to the police to take action or to do something about it? I mean, what we're doing is it's an exercise in futility, as far as I'm concerned, unless we have a relationship with the police where we can ask them to do something about what we find.
As somebody who was heavily involved in putting a speed watch together about 3 or 4 years ago, I think I can probably be in the best position at this moment in time to answer that. The data logger is capable of being passed on to the police. The data logger is simply a radar speed detection device. The key role of the data logger is to filter out any requests for doing the speed gun, which the police do want to have, or the speed camera, do want to have the data, for roads that the perceived speeding is there. Because we all know that a lot of people think a certain road X has got massive speeding. Well, it happens to be one person at night, a boy racer, making a lot of noise, but it does, the police wouldn't be interested in that whatsoever. So the data logger is in place to filter out those roads that you wouldn't take the next step. The next step then is the speed camera, and I don't mean the handheld that some people are using. It's a proper camera, etc., fully approved by the police. And what that does is it captures the, for those cars that trigger the speed limit, it captures by picture the registration number, the date and the time. And then that is fed through to the police, and they will take whatever action they feel fit. So it's a key part. Otherwise, these other areas, you have to randomly say, well, I'm going to go there or there, and I'm going to ignore this is negatives in that road over there. It's a way of trying to make it a little bit more accurate. I hope that helps.
It does to some extent, if I may just respond. The police ever come to us and said, let's put a camera up where you suggest we should?
Sorry, apologies. I obviously miscommunicated. The speed camera isn't the speed camera that goes in the yellow box. Okay, it is a speed camera on a tripod that we own, and we put it up. The police don't tell us, well, they can come to us and say, can you put it in road X? But fundamentally, we put that up and then we feed that in.
I think we're bouncing around all over the place. The simple truth of the matter is that we don't have a relationship with the police that is going to provide any benefit by operating this. So I think we paid £8 grand for it.
They're two separate things, the speed camera and the speed watch. The camera itself cannot be authorised by the Department of Highways. It has to be an unauthorised camera that you're using. The Sentinel camera that we have is approved by the police force. Okay. The data logger is something totally different. We have the ability to put that out, and the benefit of it is we can leave it up on a lamppost for a week, and the information we get from that logger will show the time of day, the number of cars or vehicles that have gone through at every speed from 35 miles per hour up to over 65 miles an hour. And it gives you the time of day. So when it comes to going out with the camera, we know that in Reading Road, for example, the hours of between 7 and 8 o'clock in the evening are the best time to catch students. Okay? It's pointless going out other times of the day because you're not going to catch everyone. There's no speed in front of you. It highlights the time of day that the speed in front of you. So that gives us the ability to say, that's the time we're going out. Going on further from that, I've got a very good working relationship with PC Turner, who I've spoken to on many occasions. I've spoken to Andy Croy and Shirley Boyd, who run the Alderness and Whitegate Speedway, and trying to come up with problems that they've encountered. One of the main problems is before we go out with the camera, we have to tell the police the exact location of where we're putting the camera. And the police then do a health and safety check on that location. And say, yes, you can go there, or no, you can't. And one of the main points they look at, A, is there an evacuation route for the volunteers who are operating the camera? That means if you've got it on the pavement and there's a hedge or a brick wall to your side, you won't be allowed to use the camera there because there's no escape route. So we need to find a driveway where there is an escape route in case any vehicle veers off the road. Also takes into account road conditions, i.e. whether it's raining or whatever, the camber of the road, and also any bends that are on the road. A slight bend in the road can deter, or can make the difference between permission to put the speed camera there and not. So everything that is possible. A lot of what Keith has said has been under the old speed, and we get that great problem there. The new speed watch, we need their approval, and we put it through. Might take catching one car 3 times by us before the police take action. But they've got it on record and they will check. They will check for insurance, MOT,
I admire everything, all the effort that you put in and the very concise way in which you've described how it all works, and I appreciate that. I still have this question in my mind. Is it going to do anything? You know, but I still don't believe that we have a relationship with the police where they will go to the trouble of enabling us to catch people speeding and then report those people for speeding.
It is automatic. I, as coordinator, have logged into the police item. If we catch a vehicle speeding, we put in a photograph of that vehicle with the registration number, and it goes straight onto the police database. Dependent upon what speed they are doing, they will send out a letter immediately. If they're only doing 38 miles an hour, they might ignore it until they've done it 3 times.
Let's look forward to stopping some of these people through it speeding.
Even if we catch one person, it's good for Woodley.
Thank you.
My point's been raised, thank you. Covered, thank you.
Are there any other questions from Councillor Wicks? No? Well, assuming we're happy with this, can we please move on to the vote on receiving these minutes? Can all those in favour please raise their hands?
15-4,
Can all those against please raise their hands?
none against,
Can all those who wish to abstain raise their hands?
3 abstentions.
The minutes have been received. Item 6 is to note the 2001-2 year and out-of-turn figures as summarised in the budget summary included as Appendix 6, which you will find on page 61 of your agenda. Do any councillors have any questions regarding the year-end out-turn figures? Councillor Heath.
I think page 63, expenditure Woodford Park, that's not leisure centre, Woodford Park, it's about 6 lines down. You've got the actual coming at 102,000, which is a lot more than the revised estimate. The point is, I've got the Leisure Services Committee budgetary control, which gave the actual expenditure as at the 31st of March, which is year end. And that was 35,000. So obviously there's been adjustments made since. The total for Leisure Services expenditure was 553, it's gone up to 658. So slight explanation of what's been adjusted since those figures we had reported in April.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, the 67,000, excuse me, for the play area appears in the figure here in the year-end outturn, which we budgetary control because it was calculated. That's what that.
So we spent that in the last financial year? Yeah. Oh, right, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Doyle.
Thank you very much. On page 64, under grants, there's a figure of 33,093. Did we really give out 33,000 pounds worth of grants? Really?
Yes.
To who?
They're not listed there, which might have been helpful actually going forwards, but I don't have the list handy. That includes the Ready Bus, which is the larger ones.
Does it include Jack?
No.
So this figure of 33,093 doesn't include the Jack SLR?
No, that's not in.
Because it's not a grant.
Oh, isn't it? I'm sorry. I'm glad you mentioned that, because you record it in the books as a grant. I mean, is this subject of this being brought up later?
It is,
yeah. I'll bring it up there.
Right, are there any other questions regarding the year-end outturn figures? Assuming there are no more queries, we will note these figures and move on. Item 7 on the agenda is for members to approve the financial statements and the annual governance and accountability return for 2021 and 2022. This is set out in a separate appendix which was circulated with your agenda. The first item, item A, is to approve the financial statements for 2021 and 22 as set out on pages 1 to 11 of the appendix. Ken, can you please run through this for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll try and speak up. Pages 1 to 11 in that separate appendix is we're looking at. These are the supporting documents to the AGAR, the accountability return. Pages 2 and 3 provide a summary of the accounting requirements and why you're being asked to consider this, and also an overview of some of the activity in the year for some context. Moving on to the financial statements themselves, a couple of points that might be helpful for me to point out. Page 4, you'll see there's variations in there comparing 2021 year with 2022. A couple of obvious ones there where there are significant differences to do with Woodford Park Leisure Centre income and the income from the community halls, as that income came back as we came out of the COVID situation and business picked back up. Likewise with the town centre partnership income, as the markets came back and the things came back in the town centre. So although that comparison is not necessarily a like for like, because we were dealing with different issues in that year, it is helpful to see where where the income's been involved. Page 5 on the income expenditure account. Point to note there, in addition to the income I've just mentioned for the halls and Woodford Park Leisure Centre, you will see a large figure there, a little over halfway down in the net column, which is a minus figure of 1,831,000, which is the investments portfolio, which was liquidated and then is shown there as coming into the accounts. Pages 8 and 8 to 11 show the employer's costs, assets, current liabilities, and in reserves.
Are there any questions on this, Councillor Doyle?
Thank you. Page 4 of the document. On page 4 it says other grants and SLA, and it says we've saved 26,523 quid because no grant was awarded for outreach youth work. Now, whilst that is very factual, is it the right place for the money that is paid for the service level agreement?
That's the right place in the account, but you're right, that should say, sort of service level agreement was awarded rather than grant.
Well, should it say grant and then as a subset, the service level agreement? Because to my mind, the service level agreement is a contract, which is a commercial arrangement, whereas a grant is a donation for, I don't know what, like we dish out these £400 grants to people who do good works for our community. The arrangement here for these services is a contract. It's not a grant. And the reason I raise it is I've raised this several times with the council, and I've never received an answer as to why it's reflected that way. We seem to continue to do it, even though I've raised it several times in the past.
I can raise that with the auditor and get some advice.
I think yes, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions regarding financial statements? No? And can we please move to a vote to approve the financial statements for 2022? We need a first and a second for this. Baker, can all those in favour please raise their hands?
(15)4.
And all those against please raise their hands?
None against.
And can all those who wish to abstain please raise their hands?
That's 3 abstentions.
Two. In that case, I can confirm the financial statements for 21-22 are approved. The second item, item B, is to receive and note the annual internal audit report for 2021-22, set out in the appendix document on page 14. Kevin, can you please run through this for us?
Yes, so this item is just to note, but just for some context, this is the internal auditors kind of pro forma, really. This is the standard document that they provide, and tick and sign that to confirm that they've checked those elements listed in A through O and are satisfied with the procedures in place.
Thank you. Do any councillors have any questions regarding the annual internal audit report? Thank you. Councillor Heath.
Page C, 4 items last year have been restated. Is that the case?
Chairman, we're not on that item yet.
This is just the annual
Page
internal
14, just page 14. We follow the agenda, it's just page 14.
So enthusiastic.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I'm just too keen. Right, assuming there are no more queries, we will note the annual internal audit report for 2021-22 and move on. Item C is to approve the annual governance statement for 2021-22, as set out on page 15 of the appendix document, with supporting information provided on pages 18-22. We, the members of the Town Council, have a responsibility for ensuring there is a sound system of internal control, including arrangements for the preparation of the accounting statements. It is our responsibility to consider each of these statements set out on page 15 of the appendix and to vote as to whether, to the best of our knowledge and belief, we agree with these statements. I will read each statement individually, followed by a vote on each. Are there any questions regarding the statements?
Thank you very much. Subject to no disagreement with the committee, would we possibly take this all in one? If somebody's got any particular issues with some of the clauses, I'm just thinking, we've got 9 clauses, and if we're all in agreement that, it should be ticked, yes, agree with those, it would be more effective and efficient to do it. But obviously somebody is against that. So I would propose to take it on block. I would hope I can get a seconder.
You have a second on that, please.
Obviously subject to, if anybody's got a comment.
Has anybody got any questions on that? Yes, we need to vote on the proposal, so if everybody is happy with that, then we vote on the proposal, please. Those before?
That's 16 for,
Can all those against please raise their hands?
none against.
And can all those who wish to abstain raise their hands? Thank you.
May I propose that you ask me questions and then read all the statements and then we'll do one vote.
Oh, I thought we didn't have to read.
We've done them on block.
We've done them all on block.
That's what we do need, the advice is you do need to.
We have to read them all.
Sorry guys, I was trying to
We
speak.
can take a vote on each of the, as a group, but they all need to be read out clearly, so everyone is absolutely confirmed that they know it's a real.
Right, so sorry about that. Statement 1, we put in place arrangements for effective financial management during the year and the preparation of the accounting statements. Statement 2, we maintained an adequate system of internal control, including measures designed to prevent and detect fraud and corruption and reviewed its effectiveness. Statement 3, we took all reasonable steps to assure ourselves that there are no matters of actual or potential non-compliance with laws, regulations and proper practices that could have a significant financial effect on the ability of this authority to conduct its business or manage its finances. Statement 4, we provided proper opportunity during the year for the exercise of elected rights in accordance with requirements of the Council audit regulations. Statement 5, we carried out an assessment of the risks facing this authority and took appropriate steps to manage those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and or external insurance cover where required. Statement 6, we maintained throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems. Statement 7, we took appropriate action on all matters raised in reports from the internal and external audit. Statement 8, we considered whether any litigation, liabilities or commitments, events or transactions occurring either during or after the year end have a financial impact on this authority and where appropriate have included them in the accounting statements. And statement 9, trust funds, including charitable, in our capacity as the sole managing trustee, we discharged our accountability responsibilities for the funds, assets, including financial reporting and, if required, independent examination or audit. Oh, sorry.
That's fine, we'll do that to that for online.
Has anybody got any questions now? So can all those who agree with this statement please raise their hands?
Fifteen has agreed to the statement.
Can all those who disagree with this statement please raise their hands?
Nobody disagrees with those statements.
Can all those who wish to abstain from this vote please raise their hands? In that case, I can confirm the statements up to 1 to 9 are confirmed, have been approved. We now need to vote to authorise that the annual governance statement to be signed by the Mayor and the Town Clerk. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder?
This is
Are we done? No, this is to sign it.
we have to officially.
I propose that the Mayor signs it.
Councillor Baker and Councillor Bates. Can I please have those in favour, please raise their hands.
That's 15-4.
Can all those against please raise their hands?
And against.
And can all those who wish to abstain please raise their hands?
3 abstentions.
The officer is confirmed. In that case, I can confirm that the annual governance statements for 2021-22 are approved and will be signed by the Town Mayor and the Town Clerk. The final item D is to approve the accounting statements for 2021-22 set out on page 16 of the appendix document with an explanation of variances provided on pages 23 to 25. As part of this, members need to note that changes to the accounting statements from 2020-21 onwards have been made relating to a council's sole trusteeship of a charity, which require that funds relating to such a charity be separated from a council's accounts. This affects the Woodley Memorial Ground charity. For 2020 to 2021 year, the figures previously submitted on the accounting statements have been restated so that the transaction totals for the charity trust fund are removed and separated from the financial statements and accounts of the Town Council. The Woodley Memorial Ground Charity Trust Fund income and expenditure transactions for 2021-22 are now completely separated from the Town Council accounts as required in the Governance and Accountability for Smaller Authorities guidance. Do any councillors have any questions regarding the accounting statements? Can we please move to a vote to approve the accounting statements for 2021-22 and to authorise that they be signed by the Town Mayor? Can I please have a proposer and a seconder? All those in favour, please raise their hands.
15-4,
And all those against, please raise their hands.
none against,
And all those who wish to abstain, please raise their hands.
3 abstentions.
In that case, I can confirm that the council statements for 2021-22 are approved and will be signed by the town minute. The next item on the agenda is to receive a statement from the leader of the council. Councillor Baker, would you like to provide a statement?
Yes, thank you. The first time for a few meetings. What a great couple of months for the residents of Woodley. Not only has the weather been magnificent, but there has been some great events during this period. The Jubilee weekend started with the lighting of the beacon in Woodford Park, which was attended by a very large number of residents. Celebrations continued with a successful Jubilee lunch in the precinct. In the meantime, I was pleased to nominate one of our amazing residents, Ronnie Goodbury. I think most people have met him or know of him, to be considered by the Lord Lieutenant of Berkshire as someone to attend the Jubilee concert in the seating area. That nomination was successful, and Ronnie and his wife made their way to Buckingham Palace to take their places in the stands. The feedback from Ronnie was that it was an amazing experience, one he will remember for some time. Ronnie also recently made a second trip to provide essential items for refugees of Ukraine and drove with 4 other drivers to the Polish hub with some tremendous donations from the residents of Woodley. As I said, he had already carried out one trip and is busy planning a third trip. Each time, the trip was made possible with the huge generosity of Woodley residents, both in terms of donations and funding for the fuel. I believe we certainly live in an amazing community who are most generous in helping others. Most recently, last Saturday, the Woodley Carnival returned with a bang. Despite there not being a procession, the turnout of visitors was unbelievably huge. It was clear that a lot of Woodley residents have missed going to these sorts of events. The weather was spectacular, which provided even more incentive to attend. With the large numbers attending, I hope all charities present raised a lot of money for the causes they support. The town council stall was quite a hit with youngsters with their space-themed activity. And it was great to have the local MP for the park, Theresa May, open the carnival. When the afternoon session was over, we moved into the evening entertainment. Several bands entertained a very large crowd with some amazing music, most of which I did not understand, but that's my age. The evening was rounded off with a fantastic 20-minute plus firework display. This display was funded by the town council, who provided additional funds to celebrate the 60th anniversary. So finally, just a bit of business. The Standing Order and Financial Regulations Subcommittee met recently and unanimously recommended all the 25 changes proposed. The next step is for these recommendations to come to the Strategy and Resources Committee for approval. The committee officer did contact or send an email to all councillors to provide any suggested changes that they thought was fit. We didn't this time around, thank goodness, because we had so much, any suggestions. So can I again echo that, and I'll get Matthew to send another email out to remind you all, if there's something in the standing orders that you think need improving, please submit it to Matthew for the agenda for the next standing orders and financial regulations subcommittee. Thank you.
The next item is item 9 on the agenda, is to consider report C4/22 on the proposed tax programme for 2022-23 as set out on page 65 of the agenda. I'd like to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. So this report contains a list of proposed projects to be funded from the capital programme and from the buildings and facilities earmarked reserve, which is itself funded from the capital programme. We've not had the capital programme for the last couple of years through COVID. Projects. This year, the council's put £45,000 into the fund, which is the balance that was in there. If you look at page 67, the numbers there in terms of available funds are in that top box. So page 67 shows a breakdown of the proposed projects. This report's in a different format to the way members will have seen this previously. I'll give some more information in detail on each of the projects to be considered and some idea of priority, how they come to be on the list. Those projects in the larger blue box, the brighter one, which isn't terribly easy to read actually, the colours not come out so great. Those are proposed projects to come from the capital programme fund. Those in the yellow box beneath are proposed to come from the buildings and facilities earmarked reserve, as they are work to relate to capital buildings in keeping with the purpose of that fund. The box further down, the lighter blue one, is potential projects that need further investigation. They're just there for information as no part of the consideration for the members this evening. So just to note, the council has allocated £45,000 in this year, which added to the carry forward balance from the previous programme gives available funds of 73,246 in the capital programme. Just to note, the costs against these projects are estimates. They come from estimates. Most of those will need to go out for competitive quotes to actually quantify what those will be going forward. And it's a material change. Something not expensive. The allocation of that will come back to members. Great. So those estimates are. The proposed projects here come to let's make it 56,000. The balance in the fund of 17,246. In a similar way, the proposed projects on the buildings and facilities fund, those in the yellow box, 667 balance in that fund of 4,643. The bit that's very different to previously are pages 68 onwards, which provides a bit of a breakdown on each of the items that's included in there. The purpose of that is to identify a priority. Those that are priority one are those that have either got a legal implication or health and safety implication, generally be linked anyway, and items that will protect income, so projects that that require to protect things to be used to income generation. The key thing to note, I think, here is that the proposed projects in these lists are all achievable within the year and within the funds available. Any questions on it?
Any questions? Thank you. Who decided how to prioritize these works and or yeah, answer that question first.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's an officer discussion. So we meet with the heads of those services to talk about what projects are going to be necessarily meeting manager in terms of the buildings and the grounds manager through the now amenities manager in that area as well, in terms of what might be done on the grounds or the leisure services manager in respect to the leisure centre. In terms of the priorities on there, they are just a judgment based on some of those things. Some of them might be subjective, it's included there just to try and provide a bit more information for members rather than just being an item on the list.
It wasn't like an independent auditor who's come in and said these buildings pose a fire risk, or the hazards in these buildings haven't been okay.
No, and the ones that relate to the
I was thinking more about the compliance elements.
Yeah, those ones were based on we did a review of the fire risk assessments for the buildings, which we do anyway. We did a slightly more in-depth one and came to a slightly different conclusion, given the way the word was being used, and felt that this was something that probably.
Councillor George, then.
I've got comments on pages 70, 71, 72. Are we up to that beforehand? Yeah. On the right hand, the far right hand column for each of these items on 72, there's impacts, say environmental and equality. I think we've fallen into the trap of just putting none without very much thought. For example, the first contract we wanted to protest putting there, I'm sure will provide greater efficiency and will in fact improve our carbon footprint. So that's an environmental impact. The same goes for the pedestrian mower on the second and the third one, the tractor mounted spiker. So that's on page 70. Then on page 71, replace patio doors, front of Oakwood Centre. I believe at the moment there is a ledge you do have to step over for the patio doors. So actually there is impact on quality in that it will be far more accessible for people with the new patio doors, and that ought to be highlighted as an impact. The paddling pool pump again, more efficient. Okay, footprint. And the lake pathway, that's an interior pathway being a little bit easier to use. That has an impact on equality. And apart from Woodford Park, the first one on page 72, my feeling is rather than spending a lot of money on improving an area that's always been boggy and people know it's boggy and avoid it, so we actually create a splash park so that we use the terrain that we've got, we use the water table position that we've got, and allow youngsters to make it a welly area or something. And I have spoken to Kevin a year or so ago about these splash parks, which are very popular elsewhere. So I think we do need to be blessed.
Councillor Baker.
First of all, I would like to commend the new design. Notwithstanding the comments about the environmental quality, impact, etc., I think it's far more clear. Apart from the dark room, what I would suggest is keep the dark room, make the dark light so you can see it. There's a couple of things I'll say. Is on page 72, the Woodford Park one. It will be ultimately agreed proposals on any of these recommendations. Officers will do their job. They'll carry out the work to provide estimates to their best ability. They will present them to the SMR committee, who will review them and ultimately give a go-ahead or not. So the boggy area, that would be an interesting one to have a debate about. Do we, depending on the cost, do we actually find a way of draining it so that we then have better access to it? And we have the fair, Carnival had the fair on that ground. If you looked at it, they had to put loads of huge little sleepers, etc., underneath the wheels. So if we can make that better, we could possibly utilise that for more functions rather than a permanent splash park, which you generally wouldn't be able to do if they're in the winter. Nobody's going to do it. But those are the things. I'm sure Kevin has actually.
Do you not remember your childhood?
I never had a childhood. I mean.
So that's becoming clear.
Devon, as I know, has made a note of that, and that will be a debate that we'll have at the strategy and resources. On the bottom line, I am actually very pleased with this new format. First time we've seen it, we're obviously teasing problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. I'll reiterate what Councillor Baker has said. It's a very good effort, but what needs to be done, and it makes it very difficult to understand. But obviously, my eyes went straight to impact and equality. What we're meant to do with this is we're meant to look at the various protected characteristics that the Equality Act requires us to look at, and then we're meant to make an assessment about how the work we're doing affects and what impact it has on each one of those protected characteristics. And I might suggest to you that whilst this is a wonderful format, that we add in the protected characteristics to demonstrate that we are evaluating how we're addressing our community, and what we're providing is of benefit to them or otherwise, because that's what we're meant to do. I'm making suggestions. I'm trying to be helpful here. I'm not being a pain in the backside usually, but in this instance, we are meant to be addressing certain specifics when we look at equality. And frankly, I'll reiterate what Councillor Jewell has said. There's a lot of and there's also saying environmental. There are certain things that we're meant to look at in the environment, and we're not addressing them specifically. So I suggest that we try to do something to demonstrate to others that that's what we're doing.
Councillor Stone, please.
Going back to the buildings and facilities, they're all red, they're all urgent and required. Are these insurance led in any way? And also, what is the timetable for actually carrying out this work? And if there is a delay, are we in a position where our insurance may be affected?
It's not an insurance-led issue, but having identified something in the review risk assessments, obviously it has a priority to it. Hard to argue. I'll have to come back to confirm that, but I haven't spoken to the amenities manager. I know that it's achievable within, they would be the priority ones. We do those first. And
Thank you. Yeah, so to follow on from Councillor Doyle's point, really, I would like to see a greater consideration for especially the environmental impacts on things like replacing plants and so on. And as Councillor Jewell said, that that there is an environmental impact, and we should, I think, be making a statement for that. And it just goes to show how value for money, how much value for money the residents are getting, and all these other aspects that are factored in to the decision making on how we spend that money and how we prioritize it. I would like to see a prioritization of the impact on the environment, definitely. I think we are losing, or we are at risk of losing even more space to housing developments that aren't council houses. So, if the public is increasingly feeling the brunt of losing those green spaces, I think the council has to show a commitment, at least, to acknowledging that, and what we can do as much as we can in our power to offset that.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson.
In defence of this layout, I would suggest that this is a very high level plan on a page. I suspect for each one of these, there is a very detailed back story to each one with a detailed impact assessment. And I think often what we do in terms of environmental impacts is we look for the negative. And actually, you're right, there are some really positive impacts here. So it would be good to highlight those. But I suspect at any one point when these are underway, each one of these will have a programme plan with milestones and a job list and deliverables against them. And that is where we will see the detail. And it might be nice that as each one of these is done, in the priority you set them, that those are brought to a meeting whichever it sits with, so that they have more interrogation.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle.
I put a motion forward to the council, I don't know when I first became councillor, where the council elected and voted to complete equality impact assessments wherever they were appropriate. And that is in most instances where we spend any sum of money. And in that vote, the council agreed that the equality impact assessments would be published, not for us, but for the public to be able to see. And I would like to see those equality impact assessments published in the way that the council agreed to do so.
Are there any other questions? Assuming there are no more queries, we need to move to a vote on approving funding for the capital programme and service fund to fund the capital projects as set out in the report. You shall propose that in the second, please. And all those in favour, please raise their hands. And all those against, please raise their hands.
None.
And can all those who wish to abstain, please raise their hands. In that case, it's been approved.
Sorry, I'd just like to say that with more detail, there's the reason for the abstention, I think now to say is that I just wanted more detail on those, the impact on the environment and the equality.
Thank you. Item 10 on the agenda is for members to consider the request from the E2 Club for free use of the open facility and fundraising event in October. I believe the item is self-explanatory, but do any of the councillors have any questions regarding this?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the good work that B2 Club do, and I think everybody knows that. I'm concerned there are a lot of good charities within our town, and this is setting a precedent that we would find it very difficult to refuse the same request from those other charities.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle.
Thank you very much. Again, my view of this is that any charity that performs this particular type of function, I would wholly support, and I have absolutely no objection to giving them access to the facilities that we have, provided those facilities are available for them. I would also like to point out that I think this Me Too Club, it's a charity I've come across. It's a very good charity. It's very worthwhile, and it seems that a very large chunk of the work they do is based in Woodley. And with that in mind, I think we ought to invite them along to apply for some of this, what do we call it, the service level agreement. I think they're a charitable group that are serving the young people of Woodley, and I think they're doing it in a way that's very demonstrable. So I would like us to all consider that. Then, along with others that I would like to put forward as well.
Thank you. Just a minute. Okay, Councillor Baker.
As it says there, another paragraph, this would normally come to the Statutory Resources. The chairman of Statutory Resources, I actually support this. I take Councillor Solom's comments. We do have to be very frugal in doing this to charities because there are literally tens and tens of charities that would fit into, they are valuable to us. What makes this different to me is the link with Matt Allwright. And it makes it different, not because he's a BBC presenter, but he's offered his services to our next, not called citizens, award ceremony,
Community heroes.
Community heroes. Now, normally, to get somebody of that caliber to MC an event like that, you are talking thousands of pounds. He's agreed with that if we do this, he will do that for us for free. So I think that's a massive quid pro quo. We gain an awful lot more if we do that as a council. And those of you who were at the Citizens Awards ceremony last time, having Matt there brought the whole event up about 10 levels of professionalism. And I was proud to sit there and say, it's my town council that's doing this. So I fully support this, probably for a different reason than Councillor Doyle, but it's the same. I do support this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I fully support it as well. And actually, the Me Too Club has benefited greatly from the Woodley Carnival charity. Certainly for the last 3 years before we didn't do it anymore, they were benefactors of that. So, you know, it is a charity that is useful. It does a lot for people in Woodley. So I will be fully supportive of this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Anson. John.
Thank you. Yeah, just that little paragraph, the second one that details what they do. I think we've got to bear in mind that because this charity exists, it takes a massive burden off the council and what we need to provide for young people. So already I think they're doing us a massive favour, and if they didn't exist, there would be a huge pressure on the council to provide these services. Just looking at the play parks in the precinct and the new one in Woodford, we considered so much about how accessible it would be and how families with children with additional needs would get out of these services, and we tried to tweak them as much as was in our power to make them accessible. And here we've got a charity that is doing so much of this already, that, like I said, is taking the burden already massively from the town council. So whatever cost it would be that we're missing out on, the booking fee, £157, the work that they're doing is so much more.
Thank you. Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Chairman. I've also had something to do with meetings, and it provides a very valuable service for many of our children, not only in Woodley but across the borough. However, I agree somewhat with Bill. We shouldn't have to look at this in full council. We should have a rate for charities so that all charities are valued for Woodley citizens, especially the ones that work with children. And so I'd like the committee to look at a special rate for charities, and that rate should not be removable because we do incur costs by hiring it out, but it should be the charities rate in the same way that we do for the stage in the centre. I'd like us to look at that in the future so that we're not making these
Thank you. Just to point out that only 18% of their members are Woodley residents, so it's not the big sort of support that's suggested, I think, earlier on. They provide services to people across working and Reading boroughs, councils or areas. And I presume they've also asked those town councils and boroughs to help them with this cost. Definitely not against the charity, but we can't keep looking at these individually. We need to, as just said, recognise charities for what they are, the good work that they're doing, and have a fee or a charge or no charge, whatever we decide, that is the same for everybody, and there's no favouritism.
Thank you. Just to think, apologies if I misheard you, Beth, but you implied that we've got a charity charge on the precincts, the centre stage. We don't. They don't pay. The charities do not pay anything to use that at all. That was put in.
Sorry, Keith, I didn't understand that.
Okay,
Then
I misunderstood.
we need a policy,
Right.
a similar policy to that.
So, secondly, I just want to reiterate, if the offer from Matt Albright was not on the table, I would be along the same road as Councillor Stone and yourself, because I think it just becomes too complex. In that, and if you look at the pricing, the charging structure we've got, it's already horrendously difficult. I mean, depending whether you're a Woodley resident, whether you're not a Woodley resident, whether it's a premium, whether it's a non-premium, it is a nightmare, and I would not like to have another one. But I come back to my point. The differentiating here is the opportunity to Matt Albright to chair our next Woodley Heroes award ceremony for free. And that is saving us a lot of money. We also should remember, Me Too gets a grant from us generally every year. So, but I'd stress, if that wasn't in here, I would not be pushing this to be supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more queries?
I'll just come back and say that, you know, I said it first of all, I appreciate the work they do. I just think we're possibly, and we've either got to say, well, we'll give every worthwhile charity the opportunity to use the Oakwood Centre free, because I think we're going to get ourselves into a bit of a state just because Matt Albright has come along and supported them. I find that very difficult to say to another charity, well, if you can get Matt Albright to come along, we'll give you a free ride. You know, it's just, I think we've got to look at it in the whole thing. We either look at the charities as one in the pricing structure, or if we're giving it free, we've got to look at the opportunity for every charity.
Just very quickly come back. Sorry.
Thank you.
So your proposal would be we charge them 157, and Matt Albright, when we wanted to chair the Heroes Award ceremony, he charges us over £1,000. I don't think that's a good. But let's put that to one side. The other thing I meant to say was, if the council agree this, we need Me Too to actually clearly state on all their publicity on this that it's supported by Woodley Town Council. I won't say another word.
Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, just a small thing, just for some clarity. The charge mentioned there is the community rate charge, which is it's not the commercial rate, so that is the reduced rate for Woodley organisations and community groups.
Right. Well, so we're pleased with. Sorry.
Can I ask, has there been set for our Community Heroes Award night, so that and we have a written commitment from Matt Albright that he will be there on that date? Because, you know, we are judging our decision on a quid pro quo arrangement, and I just wondered.
The date has been set. We don't have any written agreement. We didn't have a contract with it last year for the awards or anything. It was very much because it's last year he agreed to do it free of charge. It was very difficult to tie him down and say you definitely will do it. And we were waiting up to the last minute. So but at the moment he hasn't written. He has said to me that he is free to do it.
It's free of charge for this year. It's in return for such travelling stuff compared to what his fee might be, but
Did we get that confirmation?
What's that? What confirmation?
From Matt.
About I can definitely ask him to email me and confirm that it's available.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. So normally this would come to strategy and resources, but it feels like there's a discussion to be had at strategy and resources, not about this particular occurrence. It feels like it might be worth adding that to the agenda of strategy and resources, not this particular one, but just the whole concept, so that we can have another bash around this and see whether our feelings have changed since the pandemic, or whether we're happy with the pricing structures we've got, and whether we're happy with the premise that sits behind it. So I would suggest we just add it as a point to the next strategy and resources, if the chair of the strategy and resources is happy with that.
Yeah,
That's right, Jenny.
If we agree to this tonight and other charities come to us and say, well, Any two questions. What is our answer going to be?
First of all, I don't think potentially, unless they go around blagging, and I think they wouldn't do this, that they got it for free. It's highly unlikely that others know about it. I'm not saying that it's definite. So if others say, we actually explain that we've got the access to Matt Albright, I would name him personally, for a function as part of the arrangement. Let's not hide it, if that's what they ask.
Can we not, we give them a grant, don't we, every year of £250. Surely we could take that off the 250 and therefore, although they'd get it free, they wouldn't get as big a grant.
Well, that would be, sorry, that would be up for the next year's grant approval process to review. And the new committee or whatever it is.
Thank you. Anyway, the relevance whether Me Too tells anyone is irrelevant. It's all on YouTube and it's going to be minuted. And I'm sure the two people watching it, one of which is mine, will be fascinated.
Any other? So, can we have right. Can all those in favour please raise their hands?
For.
All those against, please raise their hands.
None against.
And all those who wish to abstain, please raise their hands.
5 abstentions.
In that case, it's been carried. Appendix 11, item 11 is to receive reports of town council representatives on outside bodies as set out before the agenda. Do we have any other councillors in attendance who wish to provide a verbal report on any other aspect of the page 75, there's an update. On the agenda, an update on the meeting, the events which is taking place are set out on page 75 of the agenda. Future agenda items. Sorry.
Price at the town mayor's engagement did not include the opening of our fantastic view play area in Woodford Park. The mayor's cut the ribbon. I know several councillors were there, hundreds of children, and it was most amazing. Thank you very much for everybody.
Publicity website. Item 14 is publicity and website. Does anybody have any items they wish to be publicised? I'll go to this first.
Yes, I think we should publicise that we're very happy to give our hall free to our halls free to any charity.
That would be a total misinterpretation of the decision of this council. To be perfectly honest, we don't need, I think, a little bit of mischief making there. That's all right. Everybody's, as Robert has pointed out, everybody's seen it on YouTube.
You and somebody else, yeah?
I didn't expect an answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've written it down, I've got it the wrong way around every time I've spoken. Yes, publicity, I've alluded to it already. There's me and one person watching this meeting on YouTube. I didn't see anything publicised in today's meeting, or the fact it is broadcast on the World Wide Web. And I think we really ought to bang this out there and get some people watching. We know our Strangers Gallery is very poorly attended, and I think we really should be shouting about it from rooftops. But we do give up the longest day of the year to sit here for 2 hours for the residents of this town. And that's it, President.
Thank you very much.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Are there any other? No? So I call this meeting closed. What time is it?
Thank you.
Okay.